Happy Tuesday. I am your host, Danielle Perkins, and this is my mother and co host, Jean Perkins.
Yes.
This is another episode of the Mother Daughter Duo podcast.
Mother Daughter Duo Podcast. Podcast.
This episode is sponsored by M5, Mommy Monday Morning Motivation Meetup. M5 is for millennial single mothers who would benefit physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally through weekly virtual meetups which promote motivation. Text 253-523-1227, the word meetup, and let's get you on the next Monday meetup call. So I would like to open up with a segment of Mother May I. As we know, these are when we take on questions from viewers and listeners. This comes from another viewer on Facebook group. This is a little more detailed because I took the question and I took a response in order to touch on the topic for today. So this comes from a Susan. I'm not going to give her last name out. I get so jealous for supportive partners. I was left when I was 9 weeks pregnant. I would just like to know what that feeling is like to have a supportive partner. Now, the response, actually, go ahead. Do you want to just speak on the question itself?
About
Mother, may I?
about being jealous about having supportive partners. I think, I think it happens more likely than not. People would think that. I remember I felt like that, sometimes. Not, let me see, I was pregnant. I was married to your dad when I was pregnant with you, and he was in Germany. Um, so I didn't have that support really. I kind of went through all of that by myself. And then with your brother's father, he was in Germany too. And so I didn't have a supportive partner at all. And I had no one getting up with me in the middle of the night when you guys got up. I practically, took care of you guys on my own. So sometimes you do get jealous. You see where other couples are in relationships and how they're managing the relationships, and you see the support that they have.
Right.
But you know what I've learned, that just because it might look good on the outside doesn't necessarily
The
mean
grass
it
is
is
not always green.
right. You don't know what the mother of the child is enduring just to have somebody in her life. So sometimes, we have to get past that and
Right.
just be thankful for what you do have. It's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to have another individual in your life or the partner of your child in your life to have, a great life, or with your children. It doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's going to play out. So
Right. Now, you said exactly, almost not verbatim, but you said exactly what the response was, which was really appealing to me, which is that you see this couple, you kind of idolize and envy their situation, not knowing
right,
what goes on behind closed
not
doors.
knowing.
So I will say this quick disclaimer. Forgive me swearing in advance, but I am going to say exactly what I'm reading. There's a huge spectrum of supportive with quotations. We tend to idolize what we don't have.
Right.
Many have shitty guys who are present physically but not caring or supportive.
Right.
My ex was from another country. He was raised in an old fashioned house where the men never changed one diaper, fed, clothed, or bathed babies or kids. His job was to bring in the money. So, my point is, just because some women have a guy in the house, some are just another mouth to feed, and they are complaining about the laundry buildup and when are they going to be, when will the wife, I guess, start working out? That's a peep squad I don't need. Now, our podcast is not to bash men, but what I will say and what I take from this is, what does healthy support look like? And this, she's saying, You definitely should not always idolize other people because you never know what that situation is.
Right.
But also, support can come. What I gather from that and took from that is support can look like several different things in several different ways. It does not necessarily need to come from a supportive significant other,
Right.
although you do want your child to have both parents. That is ideal. It does not necessarily mean that because you don't have those things, it's just the end all be all. So, with that being said, this topic is about support. What is your support system and what does a healthy village look like? Is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On the previous episode, we talked about the first year of becoming a single mom. And even prior to that, we talked about how we became moms and how we became single moms. So I would like to briefly again touch on what a support system in a village looks like and having the importance of those things for the sake of yourself and your children. During this episode, I want to take a deeper dive into the topic of having support and building your village and exactly what that looks like. So let's first talk about the benefits. Now, I took this from therapistaid.com, and they say that the benefits of social support: improved physical health, feeling of security, greater resilience to stress, improved mental well being, improved self esteem, greater life satisfaction. Now, in just reading that, I'm thinking, even without that stuff, it can still teach you how to, gain those skills because you're building resilience. You're doing it on your own. You're building that strong exterior. But of course, a healthy support system, again, is ideal. It's nice to have.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Um, Now, the types of social support. Do you want to read this, Ma? Or can you read this?
I don't know. The types of
Right here.
social supports: emotional support, which is help managing emotions such as stress, anger, or depression. This support might include listening to problems and showing empathy. Then there's tangible support, which is help with practical problems such as financial assistance, providing a ride to work, or help with childcare. Then you have informational support, which is providing information that helps solve a problem or overcome a challenge. And this might include advice on information about helpful resources. And then the last support was social needs, fulfillment of basic social needs such as love, belonging, and connectedness. And this helps provide a feeling of security and contentment. So I would say for me,
Mm-hmm.
being a single mom and in the army, I was able to have support. I remember I was in Germany and I became a part of a community because you're in a foreign country, and I think. Uh, uh, I built up a really good village there. Ended up making friends with just by the neighborhood that I had to live in, military community, was able to build up friends over there.
Who
So I
probably had
developed,
similar situations coming from
yeah. So,
one part of the country to another.
we celebrated holidays together because we were and all in a foreign country, and so we were each other's support. So that's how I built up a community there. But it wasn't until I think I came back from Germany and I came back to Washington, um, because I felt like this was a place where I could raise my kids. This was my only duty station, and I had
Mm-mm.
this was my only duty station
Except for
besides
Germany.
Germany.
Okay.
And so I was familiar with Washington. And prior to leaving, going to Germany, I had just started going to this church, St. John Baptist Church. And so when the time for me to get out of the army, when that time came and I was in Germany, I thought to myself, Washington would be a better place for me to raise my kids. I had just started getting affiliated and embedded into this church, and I really liked it. And I felt like that's where I could grow from. And so I'm glad I did make that choice. We've been here in Washington now. I'm 61. I've been here since I would say 28 or something, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit younger than maybe 30. I can't remember. Anyway,
If I'm 35,
I was stationed here before I got pregnant with you. So
right? So it should be more than
maybe
20 something
30, yeah,
years.
maybe about 30. I would say about 35 years because you're 35, 35
Had to
years.
be just a little bit before you were
I've been
here.
here a long time.
Math is not our
And
forte,
the people in my church became my
and it's still a
community.
part of the same church
And I'm
from the
still a part of
time
that
that you
same
came here.
church, and they became my family. Yeah.
So I want to say, you spoke on it. You had a village in Germany and you had a village here, and I will say that, I have had some great experiences, and the people that I can recall, my auntie Bunny, I thought it was fantastic. You tell us the story all the time about who is not actually my biological aunt. She would cut me if she heard me say that. She's actually my brother's, because we have different dads, cousin, but because of how we're raised and the respect within our family, we acknowledge her as an auntie. She is older than us. She is our seniors. So therefore we will call her and acknowledge her as an auntie, and she plays that role as an auntie.
Hmm.
But the fact that Big Bruce was able to call on his cousin and say, "Hey, my my woman, what would he call you? Perk is out there
Yeah.
because they're the military, is out there in Washington. I need you to pack up and move out there and support her." And so Auntie Bunny
Because I
was a
was
strong
pregnant.
support system.
Hmm.
You want to talk a little bit briefly about that story?
Well, yeah. She was looking for a change for herself. Like she wanted to leave where she was living at the time in Zion, Illinois. She was looking for a change. Her and her cousin, which is Big Bruce, were very close. They were like best friends. And so he was like, well, maybe you should come out here and go to Washington and stay with Perkins, because that's what he called me, and stay with Perkins. She about to have, my son. And so he was getting ready to go to Germany, and he kind of was looking out for me. So he asked her to come to Washington. She been here ever since. Ever since she done got married here. I always tease. I said,
Married
girl,
twice.
who would have thought you done end up coming here? You had a chicken and some dogs and everything. And so I always tease her about that. But she been here about as long as I have.
And that's just remarkable, the fact that she would uproot her life, although she was looking for a change, to come and support someone who she at that time did not know.
Right, right.
And then you forge that relationship and have been best friends ever since. So that, my auntie Bunny, hands down, it's no comparison. She's done a lot for us, even than some of our own family members. Not to speak against family, but that's just the matter of fact. That's just the fact of the matter. Another great support system. Um, I say my godmom Herdy, Kimberly, and Eric.
Yes.
Um, they're probably 10 years our senior, Bruce and I,
Yes.
Kimberly and Eric, and they
Yes.
just took us around like we were all, brother and sister. Wherever they went, we were there with them. I can recall some of their little at that time they were teenagers, so some of the outings they would have, the little gatherings they would bring us along.
Certainly,
To
yeah.
this day they
Hmm.
tell us how they made little songs about us. I can remember those songs they made about us. Danielle, Danielle, boom, boom. And then for Bruce, it was Brucey done a stank, stank. We done a stank. you know,
Say I
just
didn't
those
know all
little,
that.
childhood memories, and the amount of love that they poured into us, and just took us on as their own.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
And how did you meet Herdy?
So the lady that I was in the army, of course, and I'm looking for daycare, and because I was pregnant, and they told me, I worked in the dining facility. And the dining facility on base had what they call KPs, kitchen. I guess the P mean police, so kitchen police, right? They call them a KP, and I could be wrong, but there was one lady and she said, my mom, she watches kids. You wanna see if she wanna. So I was like, well, sure. And so she arranged for me and her mother to meet. Her mother name was Viola. We call her Miss Viola. She's resting in heaven right now. But and her daughter's name was BJ Sandy Banks, and I called her BJ. She worked in the kitchen. And so she facilitated that meetup, and her and Viola, or I met Viola through her mother. And so every morning, when I get up, have to go to PT, I got to take Danielle over there to Miss Viola. I'm telling you, my daughter was like, I think like weeks old, because I had to go back to work. So she started out watching my daughter, Danielle. And then at some point in time, I think her health, I don't know what it was, but
Grandma
she had to
Viola.
go out of town, or she had something happen or occurred. And she had a friend who had a sister in law who had just moved here. And so Viola, facilitated me, meeting this other woman. And see, this was a way for this other woman to have income coming in babysitting, because they were just coming here from Gary, Indiana, and it happened to be Herdy and her two children. And so Eric and Kim. And so that's how that relationship forged. So they've been a part of our life ever since then too.
And then, and there were so many other people in between. I can think of the Taylors out in Germany. Like you said, Grandma Viola out here. But also the most memorable, not that my aunt Bunny and the Hurdys, or Hurdy and Kim and Eric weren't, but the Rogers family. When you talk about church family, they literally, we have no family out here except for my cousin and my brother's cousin, or aunt, Auntie Bunny. So my cousin Chucky, Auntie Bunny are the only two people out here. Aside from that, we don't have any blood relatives
Right.
except for the Rogers family, who my mother met at our church home. And they took us in, and we were with them for like 10 years plus, rocking. I mean, every holiday was so
Yeah, more
memorable.
than 10. Yeah, I came back from Germany. Bunny had married their son. And so that's how that relationship came about. Bunny had
Introducing.
married into that family. And at that time, Bunny was taking care of you and Bruce. And because of a situation that had happened when I had to leave and go to Germany. So Bunny had married into that family, and that family just adopted you and Bruce into their family while I was away in Germany. That's when that started back in the 90s, and they're still a big part of our family now.
Yes, they have a huge family, whereas it was just us three as the core. Their family is a huge family, very extended family. So every holiday, every birthday,
Every
Sunday
Mother's
dinners,
Day, Father's Day.
we really just had a good, rich childhood because of that experience and because they invited us into their homes.
Yes.
And so when you talk about a good support system, I really thank each and every one of those individuals and the families that they represent that took us in and supported you because they saw you were in need and they cared about the character that you had as a person and wanted to um, support you. Now, with that being said, I told you this was going to be a stretch, this podcast, because it's not always peaches and cream. You know, everyone has a story in the past. Uh, we also had some unfortunate situations that happened. And I think you were saying because of the situation, I think you brushed on it a little bit. You just
What are you talking about?
so I we won't say
How
their
you ended up
names.
with Bunny?
Yes. So what I believe the story was in my what the experience, because sometimes um you can harbor things for so long that sometimes you can manipulate what the history and what the story actually was. You get some things misconstrued and crosswired. So what I believe the situation was there was a family, mother, daughter,
Father.
mother, father, and daughter.
Mm-hmm.
The daughter was much older, and it was just them three.
Mm-hmm.
And we were very, very young. These were older individuals who probably did not have a lot of patience for us young children.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe sometimes I can recall we were kind of like in a room tucked away, not necessarily with the group if there were a lot of people to come around, but also when they finally decided for whatever reason enough was enough, they kind of just left us on Auntie Bunny's porch and just kind of walked away.
No.
Okay.
So we hashing this out on here. Huh? So what happened was
What had happened
So
was
I had orders to go to Germany, and going back to what we were talking about now, support. I had no support. Like when you got orders to go to Germany and you're not married, I had no one to leave my children with. Like, what am I gonna do with my kids? At the time, I had two. Brucey was only one, and Danielle was either three or four. And so here I am, and I don't even think Brucey was one. He was months old. And I just didn't know what I was going to do. And I had planned on going AWOL. I was just really ready to, I
what's
was going to get a
AWOL if no one knows?
absent without leave. Like I was just not going to show up to Germany, and I would have been in trouble. Probably would have, I don't know what would have happened, but that was my plan. And I was in the hair salon one day getting my hair done, talking to one of the ladies from my church. She got her hair done at the same place. She was like, Jean, what are you going to do with your kids? What they're going to... And I told her, I don't know. So it was an out opening for her because she was like, oh, you don't know? And I said, no, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I told her my plan. Just wasn't going to go. And at that time, I think she was doing foster care. And so she said, "Oh, me and my husband, we can take them do." And I thought that was a godsend, like it happened at the last minute, the ninth hour. And I'm thinking, look how God has worked this thing out. And so I did all the necessary paperwork at the last minute. I got everything set up with DSHS for them to get food stamps or at least some
Oh,
milk.
I
I
didn't
did.
know that.
I
So
set
there
up
was some
all of that.
money involved in a sense.
They weren't getting I did an allotment to them, like $500 that they got a month, plus the milk because Brucey was a baby and because of you small. So I set up all of that, and then I thought that I had you guys in the best situation. They were members of my church. How could anything go wrong? And I went to Germany. Get to Germany, and I remember calling to check on you, and the gentleman said he would be so negative when I talked to him. And I'm in Germany, and I'm in Stuttgart, Germany, and I was in a relationship with Bruce's dad. He was in another part of Germany. And after I had got off the phone, I had called him and I was just telling him my concerns and my worry. And he was like, Perkins, we got to get them kids over here, because he was just as crazy about you as he was his own son. So he was like, we got to get these kids over here. And so I tried to work, and now remember, it's Desert Storm, so my unit is already gone. My unit, I ended up getting to Germany, but it was only like a handful of people there because the unit was gone. Even the commander was gone. But the commander's wife played a very big part in things that were still going on back on in Germany in the unit, and so she knew that I had what was going on with my kids. And in the meantime, this family went and took my kids and dropped them off at the church one Sunday night. Happened to be a Sunday night where we all the first Sunday.
What did we do?
The first Sunday of every month was communion night, and my church always had communion 7 o'clock at night, first Sunday of every month. And Bunny and her husband at the time happened to be there getting ready to do communion. And here this family is just dropping you and your brother off at the church with your belongings.
3 and an infant, quite
And
possibly.
that's how Bunny and her got custody of you guys. She just
Okay,
took it up on herself.
I don't want
and
to
did
put
it.
Auntie Bunny on the spot, but I do want to ask, if she originally came out here to support you, what happened that we ended up being with them instead of her?
because she didn't get married until after I had left. So she was single. There was no way she could have done that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know, but in the course of time, meeting that gentleman and getting married, so now she has that support, and she also has the support of the family she married into.
Right.
So she just took it upon herself when they came up there and they dropped you guys off at the church and with all of your stuff, but he just picked it up
Oh,
and put it in their car.
what were you thinking? Oh
I
my goodness.
started drinking.
All right. Okay.
I literally started drinking when I found out. And like Bruce's dad, Big Bruce, he kept a leveled head. He was like, Perkins, we got to get him over here. So going back to what I said earlier, and I let my commander's wife know what had happened. And next thing I know, they had worked a miracle out and they cut me orders. You guys were only with Bunny from that happened around September. And I got back home around December and picked you guys up and took you back with me.
Mhm.
But they cut orders. Next thing I know, they cut orders and I was allowed to come home and pick you guys up and take you back with me.
Did they stay at that church for some time, even after all of that?
They did. They stayed in that church, and I was very unforgiving. I came back, and I was just
To
so
say the least.
angry at them. And then, I just knew that there was we was at the same church, but and not only did they pick y'all up and just drop y'all off, but one Sunday they got up and I don't know, it was supposed to be testimony. Testimony time is when you talk about the goodness of the Lord, but they was up there talking about we got these kids and it was horrible. I found that out too. I don't know if Bunny remembers that, but they got up and they were speaking very negatively about how they got you guys. They offered. So that's the only reason why you guys ended up with them. But at the end of the day, here we are years later.
I'll say I probably should not say this, but
Well, don't say it. Let that go.
karma, you know, the karma. This man is no longer with us because he. It's not funny,
Amen.
but
I mean,
apparently,
not amen. No, I'm not saying amen. I'm just talking about
amen. Get past
God.
it.
Yeah,
But
God
people
bless
need to
him.
know
Rest.
this man has passed because he was hit by a train.
Okay, Danielle.
I'm just saying, you
Let that
can be
go.
careful of how you treat people as well.
Yeah,
And
God rest
I
his
would never
soul.
wish that on anybody, but I'm just
Nobody.
saying, be careful how you treat people. In another unfortunate situation, I recall being with another family, and at that time, the parentals were not home. I was with a young man, and I think that he took that opportunity to kind of grope on me. So that I felt like I was molested at that time. And that's something else that I hold with me. And we barely have had a conversation about that, which I understand is very difficult, especially if that's something that has run in your family before. You've never really had the tools and the resources to kind of deal with that situation. And especially in the Black family, you kind of just, what happens in our household stays in our household. But we are hoping that this would be a help to someone else. What was that like when I told you and when you had to confront that family?
Well, it's always you don't want you do
That's
your
the worst
best.
you can ever,
Yeah, you do
hope.
your best to. You think you're doing your very best to have your children around good people, and then when you learn about something like that, it's so shocking, and it really just kind of takes you by surprise, and that's why I just don't trust anybody. So even now with my grandson, I just don't want him staying with nobody because I don't trust nobody. Um, but that was horrible to learn and find out, and I did take care of it. I confronted the family and we had a discussion about it, and you never went back over there. So I there's nothing else I'm
That's
sorry about that happened. It hurts my heart to know that it happened. I did my best to make sure that it didn't happen, and even sometimes your best is just not good enough. That's why I never let you spend the night at people's house. I was
well,
just
I think
always
that
thinking that
because we never really had a conversation until very
recently.
recently, that I've harbored those things, I understand that you did the very best that you could, but had we had discussions around it, I think that,
You might have healed
a lot
better.
sooner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I apologize for that. I just something that we don't like to talk about because we don't want to face that truth, or
Yeah.
that
And I just never knew that you confronted it or what came of it or any of that. So,
Yeah, I did immediately.
and I appreciate that. I really do. And hearing that made me a lot better, made me feel a lot better. But in closing, I just want to add, he's about to give me the. What would you say a healthy support system looks like, and how can single moms build a network of a healthy support system?
I mean, mentioning the ones that we did mention earlier, I had a good, healthy support system still to this day with my Rogers family. They are the family I learned a lot from them as far as family togetherness and all of that. Had a good, healthy support system with with Bunny. She's always been a constant. And so,
Auntie
you
Gloria, the
Auntie
Flanagan
Gloria,
family.
yeah, we just gotta, we just have really good friends that you guys are, call aunties and uncles, even though they're no blood relative. But we all came out of the same church, and so we built our network from there. And so we just always made. I'm just a friendly person. I've been able to make good friends, and have allowed my children to be as a part of that network. So.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So yeah, I looked up. Of course, I'm a researcher. I like to Google, but it does say from the fnphenomenal.com website 7 ways you can build your village. Family is one of them. Friends, other moms, for instance, M5 Mommy Monday Morning Motivation Meetup. So there are a lot of virtual groups, a lot of meetup groups out there, a lot of organizations. Church was one.
mhm.
They say care.com. I guess this gives you a list of referrals or a network of individuals looking for some of the same things that you are. Early child education providers, community centers as well. I think we participated in a few community centers in our uh, childhood programs at the time when we were both in Germany and here. So those are resources anytime that you're looking to connect, build a village. How would you, in closing, vet some of those individuals?
I don't know. I just use the my best insight or intuition. Just don't leave my children with no anybody.
Well,
So
who's anybody? How do you properly vet? I would say you look at the character of a person, you ask people around them, look at the circles and the people that they're
yeah,
around,
yeah,
look at whether they're trustworthy, listen to some of the things that they say. It's also great that if you have children that are older who can actually speak out against certain things if they are being
yeah.
victimized in any way.
All of that's
Cameras,
good.
make sure you have cameras if you can, depending on who the people are. If it's not too weird, if it is somebody that is completely third party, probably good to have cameras in the household so you can monitor.
Hmm.
Make sure you're looking on the Yelp for the day. I'm aware of the time. You be getting so fidgety because of the time. Make sure you Yelp and look at the ratings of other facilities and organizations to make sure you're doing your due diligence to vet some of those
Yeah,
individuals and corporations.
yeah.
And so that is another episode of the Mother Daughter Duo podcast. You can a new upload every Tuesday. If you have questions, inquiries, want to support, want to ask a question about what it's like being a single mother, and get some opinions, please email us at motherdaughterduoinfo@gmail.com. Peace.
Peace.
Mother Daughter Duo Podcast.